Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod, Season 3, Episode 5. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad we're all here today. I'm glad you're here listening to me. I know it's been a while. I hope I can get back on my once per month track. This is the first pod of January. I didn't do one for December, so I'm going to try to make up for it with two podcast episodes this month. So, it's an exciting episode. We have, for the first time in the history of the Patty Pod, an interview today, and we also have somewhat of a singular theme. Well, we're probably going to branch off. We are going to digress. We are going to meander off of that theme a bit, but it'll be somewhat centered around the theme of talent. That's the first themed episode. That's the theme of the first themed episode, talent. It's the first of the Patty Pod. The theme of talent is appropriate, of course, as you are listening to the greatest podcaster of all time on the greatest podcast of all time. I'm the GOAT. I'm the John Tesh of podcasting, or the Richard Simmons, if you wish. Either is apt. Nothing can compete with this pod's brilliance, hilarity, insight, wit, genius, originality, and perhaps more than anything, it's humility. For in case in point of my GOAT status, let's take a quick trip to the language corner. I've got a new one for you. You know, if you know someone who's got that riz on another level, they're not a rizzler, as I've heard some lesser wits utter. They are rizzards and should be wearing pointed hats and carrying wands. Go ahead and use that one, Patty Pod listener. Say it to your friends and family and watch their jaws drop and their minds melt. If you're not convinced of my GOAT status, consider this. Rick Rubin, in his book on creativity, says that for a creative person, the audience must come last. If you listen to this podcast and if you check its stats, you will know that absolutely nobody has been better at making sure the audience comes last. Talent, homies, has never been more abundant than in yours truly. All right, and with that, let's bring in our guest today. We have Ethan Osman, my buddy E-Train. He is a fellow I met at roller hockey some years back. Ethan, welcome to the Patty Pod.
Oh, great to be here, Patty. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? We met playing roller hockey, but what do you do with the rest of your life?
So when I'm not playing roller hockey, which to be fair isn't quite a lot of time, but in that very little free time that I do have, trying to become a orchestral conductor. So I was trained as a pianist, keyboardist, but have been doing this conducting thing for about 10 years now, and just love it to death. Really couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. It's a very strange sort of field because I think when most people watch a conductor, they don't really have much of an idea of what the person's doing. And to be fair, there's a whole lot of charlatanism and whiz or wizardry.
There you go.
So
Yeah,
like,
already. Good. No charge.
Yeah, I'm catching on.
Yeah, that's for free.
But there's a whole lot of alchemy involved, and the great news about the career, also the bad news. Let's start with the bad news, that to really get a strong conducting career going, for the most part, takes anywhere from 20 to 30 years. So I'm only going to be having the career I really, really want to have in a few decades. On the other hand, I'll be able to do it until I die. And there's just something absolutely wonderful about the way you connect with people. You see people and really at their most intimate in a way that they don't show themselves in the rest of their life. You're working with, on any given day, 40 to 100 experts in their field, whether that's oboe or violin or whatever instrument they play, or even voice. And you're getting to collaborate with them on hours on end in the one thing that they're most expert at and most expressive in. And you if you prepare well enough, or whatever the case may be, you have something to offer them and their craft. And being able to create something absolutely gorgeous with them is there's really nothing like it.
So yeah, let me just pick up on a few things you said. You said there's some charlatanism and there's some wizardry involved in conducting, but and I think maybe you're speaking to the subjectivity of it. Is that somewhat accurate?
Absolutely. There's well, I mean, most people go to a classical concert, and what the hell is the guy doing? He's waving a stick in front of people who do their jobs better than 99.9% of other musicians, and somehow he's at the epicenter of the energy of the whole object of action of creation.
Mhm.
What really is he doing? And it's
But
so different. Yeah, you know.
But I mean, I can see that. I think with anything in the arts or anything in the creative field, there's always a bit of subjectivity, and there's not. I used to contrast it to sports when I was in college and I was getting deeper into the arts. Like, there's no scoreboard, right? There's no stats. There's nothing that kind of objective. But that being said, in order to get anywhere near what you're doing, one has to have a certain amount of talent, which is our theme, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the you see it when you work with really, really excellent conductors that there's this je ne sais quoi that they
Mhm.
have. Charisma, certainly, commitment to their craft, knowledge of the music,
Mhm.
um, communicative skills. There absolutely is this degree of talent, and they have to be really, really strong musicians in their own right. Generally,
Right.
really, really good at playing another instrument.
So let me get to that. This is kind of where I wanted to at least start off on this interview. So you had this talent. You've had this very apparent talent. When I decided to talk to you, that's the first thing that came to my mind because I think it's something that stands out for me. I mean, we live in New York City. We live near New York City. We're around a lot of talented people. Even in just in our game, like there's a lot of people that are pretty like senior, pretty high achievers. But even that being said, with you, there was this thing that emerged as a child that was very clear. I mean, let's just talk about perfect pitch, right? You have perfect pitch, correct?
Yep.
So that's something that you were just born with, right?
Actually, it's even more interesting than that. So I trained as a pianist, and I didn't
Wait,
really know
one
that I
second.
had.
Let me just
Yeah,
explain too, because some of our listeners might not know. So perfect pitch
absolutely.
is somebody can play a note on the piano, any note, and if you don't know music, think about the white keys on the piano are arranged in kind of an order. So they have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats going up A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So the white notes are basically that. You can think of the black notes as sort of in between notes or half steps, and just in a really simplified way. So somebody could pluck one of those keys on the piano or depress one of those keys on a keyboard on the piano, and you can tell them what note that is, correct?
Yes.
And that's essentially perfect pitch, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And there are different degrees of it. There's some people who only have it with a specific instrument. For instance, many, I don't know, cellists. There's certain notes on the cello that sound different than other notes just because of the way the instrument's constructed.
Hmm.
Not even just that one's an F, say, and one's a C. There's
Hmm.
actually a different sort of resonance.
Hmm.
But cellists probably won't be able to tell the difference between the same F and the same C on a bassoon, just
Okay.
because they haven't spent hours and hours practicing that instrument.
But you've did you have it like kind of sort of just naturally? You worked on it a little bit, but you got to there, right? Like you have it at a young
Yep.
age. You had it.
Yeah, and I would say it really came to me because I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd practice however much time I played piano, but over the years because I did it day after day after day,
Hmm.
you get very used to you press a certain key or certain button,
Hmm.
and a very very specific sound comes out of that key every single time. So you associate, oh, you press this, that comes out. And then I studied a lot of music theory and listened to a ton of orchestral music or a lot of other classical music that doesn't have piano. And after a while, I think it really developed. Some people seem to come out of the womb with perfect pitch, and
Yeah.
What wasn't my case, but in many ways, I think I'm even all the better for not having been born with it and having to develop it.
Yeah. But I mean, certainly, I mean, I sang in the choir since I was in seventh grade. I wasn't like super, I didn't take a lot of music classes. I wouldn't have called myself like a music kid per se, but perfect pitch, I was nowhere near it, right? I mean, maybe that would have been better if I would have been playing an instrument because I would, have associated it with a certain key. But it seemed to me like there were just, there you can tell like with any activity that certain individuals have more of a natural aptitude, and you definitely had, you clearly had a talent for music at a pretty young age, right? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a ton of it growing up. My parents, both big classical music lovers, so they're, all the time there was stuff on, and I think kind of just bathing in that. It's sort of like kids who are bilingual or trilingual. They grow up with the different influences. For me, it was English and music. So I think just my ear being really attuned to that helped. I don't know what else that like is in me, or what about me genetically, or however else, like maybe I'm more inclined to it or whatnot, but I certainly had the external influences.
Yeah, so setting aside the nature versus nurture debate about how you got to where your talent was, would it not be fair to say that you had sort of a pronounced talent at a pretty young age?
uh yeah, sure.
And you were kind of confident moving into the direction of being a professional musician?
Yeah, actually, so it's one of those interesting questions because I've heard it said a lot about classical music is that, well, there's not a whole lot of money in it. So if you want to become a classical musician, there really has to be no other thing you could imagine yourself being.
Hmm.
There's just too much competition, not enough resources, and I think that was true for the most part with me. I mean, when I was 8 or 9, I mean, God, everybody wants to be shortstop on the Yankees.
Yeah.
I was pretty quickly disabused of that. But then after that, after that, maybe I toyed around with becoming a scientist, a biochemist, or molecular biologist, and
Mhm.
I think after classical music, that would be something I'd really, really enjoy doing. But at this point in time, I really can't imagine doing anything else with my life.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think you have a certain amount of reinforcement from your teachers and your peers.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to be, to listen to classical music all the time at home. My dad knows the standard orchestral repertoire better than most people I go to school with,
Hmm.
and most conductors that I've worked with, at least my age.
Okay.
So I was exposed to a ton, and I think that really helped. I've also always been pretty curious about different forms of music, and when I did this pre-college program, parallel to high school studying classical music, I was taking just about everything I could,
Hmm.
whether that was chamber music or accompanying singers at the piano or studying piano myself, a lot of theory, all
Hmm.
these non-conducting, explicitly conducting activities that
Hmm.
just trying to at that age get into contact with as much as I could.
Hmm.
Um,
So
and
let me
yeah.
ask you. So from the outside, I mean, maybe this is, reveals more about me than anything else, but I would imagine other people see this too, that it looks like you've got a very clear direction as a young person, right? You've got this talent that's very, very apparent. And I was always envious of that. I had a friend, Dan Goldman, another listener. By the way, Ethan's a listener, audience. So if you want to be interviewed by me, it does not hurt to be a listener. And let me know that you listen and tell all your friends. No. So anyway, Dan Goldman is sometimes a listener, a friend of mine. He was a great math and engineering brain, and he did well in math and science as a kid. And he knew he wanted to be an engineer when we were like 14 or something. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had this foggy notion that emerged somewhere when I was a junior or senior that I wanted to be a writer. I didn't know what that meant. Like, I kind of took a liking to 20th century American literature and thought that was kind of glamorous. And I don't know if I thought I was going to be like Fitzgerald or Hemingway or something like that. But I kind of didn't know what to do with that. I certainly didn't see a path forward. Like, nobody from my hometown was a famous writer. I didn't even think anyone was a professional writer. I'm sure there have been, but. Um, So I was really envious of that. I would think that people who looked at you would have some envy and think that, oh, this is just you got lucky, you have this talent, you have this kind of glide path towards a this career that's going to be a career that you love, that you don't have to bang it out in the salt mines of corporate America, or doing something, whatever, being a lawyer, doctor, businessman, technology person that so many people do, right? If they want to be in the middle or upper middle class. So what does it feel like that? Does it feel like you've had a glide path and you're just grateful that you've had it, and is that, yeah, I guess that's my question.
Yeah, it's well, it's I'm really really grateful for it for a variety of reasons. One, having that path, it's very very clear what I need to do to have something of a career. And as a conductor, it's yes, it's a very opaque field. We don't always know what orchestras would be interested in working with us or how we get work. It's often very word of mouth, like very secretive.
Mhm.
But at least there's certain things you can do as a conductor to get your career going. So yeah, I think I'm really grateful that I had something like that. It's also a very niche sort of area. I mean, how many people, if you stop them on the street or chatted them up in the subway, would say they listen to tons of classical music or are really interested in classical music? Sure, most of them would say, "Oh yeah, it's very calming," or
Mhm.
I've had positive experiences, but that they're really engaged with it, not many. So it is really niche, but I'm so grateful for I mean, it's so rich, even if it is niche. There's so much out there. It's also a great way of connecting with people, whether that's audience or other musicians on a very, very deep level, which is something I crave.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, I'm really grateful for that. There have been times where it hasn't felt incredibly linear, where there have been branching points. Yeah, am I gonna decide to audition for this, and then ultimately deciding to audition, and for whatever reason, getting in has totally changed my outlook on career path and career chances, for sure. But um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not anybody else. I'm very grateful for it, but yeah, I have very little idea how anybody else views that.
Do you think that maybe people think you've had it easier than you've had it because you've had this talent?
Very possibly. It's answered a lot of questions. I don't per se think, okay, where am I going to be in 5 years and have absolutely no idea where I'm going to be living and what I'm going to be doing. I have a good sense that I'm probably going to be splitting my time between somewhere in the UK and New York for sure. I'm going to be hopefully, at least that's the goal, an assistant conductor at a reasonably important orchestra, either in the UK or on the continent. I have a very, very good idea where I'll be in 30 years if all goes according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think having that sort of security of knowing exactly what you want to do has allowed me to take very concrete steps on how I want to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very set plan with how I spend each given day in terms of trying to improve my craft, how I go about studying the scores I'm working on, how
Mm-hmm.
I go about practicing my physicality and various conducting gestures. Yeah, there's a whole lot of security in that. But yeah, it's my struggle and it's nobody else's. So
You're
yeah, I have no idea what
Does
it'll
it
be
feel
like.
like a struggle?
At times, yeah, because there's certain scores that I'll either want to work on or I'll be assigned by my teacher, Sean Edwards, or that I have to study for whatever reason. I'm like, yeah, I totally get this. I love this piece. Uh, it's a very clear like how I have to go about studying it to really absorb all the contents of the piece. And then there are other pieces where it's like, yeah, why am I studying this? I don't really want to be doing this. I just have to, bang it out, do a professional job, and maybe not put as much of my own soul and self into it. Um, and it's certainly a struggle, day after day. It's such a there's so many people who want to become conductors because, I mean, it's a pretty fucking cool profession. You're
Mm-hmm.
in front of a ton of people who really, really, love what they do and are masters of their craft, and because you're studying the bird's eye view of these scores, you have some insight into how they could be doing their job better. It's kind of a combination between a sports coach where you have this really, really highly complex, highly social organization that you're trying to get everybody to do their job at the highest level, while
Hmm.
also having sort of an interpretation or agenda, maybe like a system in sports where you have certain core beliefs on how that organization or organism is going to work best together, and there's a little bit of give and take with each member of the team and you. It's highly exciting for all those reasons, but also because it's music and it has the potential to move you profoundly.
Hmm. So do you feel like you get pushed sometimes into maybe a stressful situation because you feel like you're competing? Is that part of what you're saying?
Yeah, there's some of it, but at the end of the day, there's so much of conducting, because it's very subjective. It's hard to really say who's better and who's not. Orchestras can tell immediately, because if somebody really knows the music, and they can just get a sense from a conductor when they have strong opinions that are grounded in textual evidence in that score of what the composer has written, and they can point to X detail or Y detail, and okay, that's why I believe this music should go this way.
Hmm.
And orchestras respond really well to that when you do have really solid reasons, and they don't feel like you're becoming a conductor because it's a very public facing job,
Hmm.
often very lucrative. They respond generally pretty poorly to blind ambition. So orchestras can tell when a conductor's in it for the right reasons and good at their job.
Hmm.
Um, it's harder for most other people, I think, including many conductors. You ask 10 conductors who their favorite conductor is, and you'll probably get 10 different answers.
Hmm.
That said, so there is a lot of competition, because there are very few, maybe say 100 chief conductor roles of really good orchestras in the world.
Hmm.
But that said, there's very few people who really know the repertoire, really know how the different orchestral instruments work, have the communication and social skills to be able to inspire and improve other people's work,
Hmm.
and then really, really know the pieces they're working on, and
Hmm.
just have this integrity that I think absolutely shines through their work. Very, very few people who can do that, and so I think if you kind of take care of your own work or your own craft,
Hmm.
things you should have at least a fulfilling career, if not an internationally renowned one.
Got you. Yes. So do you, I'm guessing you've heard peers. You're 23, right?
Yep.
You just finished your undergraduate work last year.
Yep. So I did my undergrad, a 4-year orchestral conducting degree at Mannes School of Music here in New York,
Hmm.
which was again something I'm incredibly grateful for. Studied with David Hayes, the conducting teacher at Mannes. It gave me, I think, a relatively clear and presentable stick technique that I could use with musicians, and gave me a sense of, okay, this is you're a conductor now. This is your identity. Here's how you go about your work day after day after day.
And you must
Um,
have, but I know you had friends and, well, friends in other disciplines, and you must have you lived with people that were in different disciplines. You must have encountered this kind of common college age concern about, I don't know what to do with my life, right?
Absolutely. Two of my best friends, I think, felt that very, very acutely in college.
Did you have a sense that you were in a very different boat from them?
Yes and no. I think career-wise, absolutely, and whatever my psyche or my intellect or my personality, however that's been informed by my work. There's certainly a difference between my journey and theirs. Um, I can't say it's something that when I meet people, or whenever else, that I really think, oh, okay, I have this calling, other people don't. It's more like this is um I know that I really, really want to become a conductor on a an international scale. Work with the best musicians I can. Work on really engaging projects, and I know what I have to do day after day after day to make that a possibility, if not a reality.
Hmm.
But I think that's become so internalized now. I started at Manus 5 years ago now. I graduated in May 2023. Now I'm at the Royal Academy of Music doing my master's, which is a 2-year program. All that time, and even studying conducting beforehand, it's become so internalized. Okay, you have to do X, Y, and Z to be a better musician when you go to bed than you were when you woke up.
Hmm.
That it's something I don't really think about day to day, and I can't say it's at the
Interesting.
center of how I engage or relate to other humans around me, or even what I value in people.
Hmm.
I think actually on a personal level has very little to do with my work. I think the thing that I value among other things so highly in people is when they have an ability to question their own underlying biases.
Oh
And
yeah.
often, yeah, and I think oftentimes that's really linked with not knowing what you want to do in the world,
Mm.
or not having a dogma or an ideology you're trying to press, but just asking yourself day after day, why all this? What's my place in all this? What do I really believe? I value that so much in my friends and uh, inner circle.
Yeah, I can see that because you seem to you interface with all sorts of different people, and you're pretty engaged when you do that. You interact with you seem to be curious about other people's lives, people from all walks of life, not just high flying Manhattan types or really career centered people, and certainly people in different fields outside of the arts and outside of music.
Yeah, my dad's a psychotherapist, so he gets this chance to, work with people on a very intimate level from all walks of life.
Yeah.
I get to see people very, very intimately when they're performing, say, and they're, putting all of their soul into their music and trying to do the best job that they can, but also relying on their colleagues and me to help them do that. So there's this trust and great responsibility that comes with that, where people are being vulnerable, and I get to see that part of them intimately. But that's really in their work. Like uh, Patty, you mentioned the hockey game. They're people from white collar defense attorneys
Yeah.
to truck drivers
Hmm.
to people from all walks of life in the game.
Hmm.
And when we put on our skates and play, it's
Hmm.
all of that vanishes.
Yep.
That's, I think, one of many ways for me to meet people who I wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always looking for sort of forums or friend groups or events to meet people who I would never meet otherwise, and kind of get even if only a short view into the way they tick.
Yeah, yeah, you seem to enjoy that. Let me ask you, how do you contextualize your talent and your career in your larger life? I know it seems like when I asked you about like how do you view yourself vis-a-vis some of your college classmates, you've so adopted that this is my path forward. You don't, it's sort of like you don't even think about it anymore. Like we don't think about the oxygen we breathe when we're walking around walking around living life. But do you reflect on, do you feel like, uh, okay, I'm happy with this part of my life, but really not so much this part? Or is it kind of like you're just going about your business really locked in? How do you contextualize your talent in your career? Do you kind of reflect on it about how it fits into the rest of your life? Or is that not something you do too much?
Yeah, great question. On a day-to-day basis, I think I try to structure my days around a few factors. So obviously, like when my friends and family are available, um, hockey, on days I have hockey, that's it takes up a chunk of time, and you go to the rink and you go away from it. But like, how are you structuring your days around? How am I structuring my days around developing my talent? I think, well, I can't really study a score for too much longer than, say, an hour at a time if I'm just staring at it. So being on public transit's a great opportunity if I'm going somewhere to get in at least half an hour or whatever time to pour over a score. If I'm walking somewhere, I can practice conducting gesture. It's finding these little pockets of time around other engagements that I have or activities that I have to even if only for 5 minutes, even a little baton practice can be very, very helpful. Um,
Do you
in
think about,
terms,
I mean, do you reflect a lot about the rest of your life? Or are you really pretty focused on your career and your talent? And that's not a judgment in any way. I'm just curious from a day to day.
absolutely, yeah, I'm a pretty reflective person. So if I'm not consciously using a bit of time to work on something, I'm probably reflecting on some part of my life, whether friends, family, social,
Hmm.
work. I find it very, very hard to turn my brain off and
Hmm.
stop thinking or reflecting or
Hmm.
just do nothing and not think about anything. It's something I'm really not good at.
So
Um,
how do you feel? How do you think your happiness levels are impacted by your talent?
it's absolutely given me a kind of a raison d'être. I think it's
Mhm.
given me like a purpose and yeah, just a reason for existing. And I think that's given me even if it's a very niche sort of interest, it's given me a deeper connection with I don't know, the cosmos or the way other people think.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I think without that, it's a funny thing, talent, because you're born, you don't choose your genes, you don't choose
Yeah.
your parents, you don't
Right.
choose when you're born or
Yeah.
who the people surround you with it. You're just kind of left with this thing,
Yeah.
uh, and you got to make the most of it. And I think some people feel very burdened by it. Um, at times, it's kind of this is such a hard field, but I never question on a very deep level, why am I doing this? Sure, it can be frustrating if you have a setback or whatnot, but it's always, if I don't get accepted somewhere or I miss a deadline or a concert didn't go as well as I thought it would, maybe it's how I'm raised or just personality wise, my makeup. My initial reaction is just like, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Or if it does, it happens better.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, Ethan, thanks so much for your time, my friend. We're probably getting close to wrapping up our normal time allotment for the Patty Pod. Um, I hope you've had a great experience here on this new format for the podcast. And yeah, we'll probably see you when Saturday on the rink, Ethan.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I was gonna say rain or shine. We played in a bit of rain today, and that wasn't fun, but um, great game. And yeah, rain. See you on the rink, rain or shine, Pat. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
having me.
I'm gonna have a late night Friday night with my ice game, but I am gonna fight through it on Saturday to see you, buddy, before you take off back across the pond.
Thank you so much, buddy. Great to be on here. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Ethan, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.